So we're now up to Daf Lamed Daled, and we've established that if we can identify the person who's coming towards him, and it turns out he's the right guy, he's Ruvain, then the Naziris is Chal. So Gemara says, Ilem Rabbi Tarfon, Mi Havi Nazir. If it's Rabbi Tarfon, then can he really be a Nazir? After all, it's Rabbi Tarfon who says that if it wasn't clear at the time that he took his Nazirus, then the Nazirus is not Chal. Even the Bishata the Kodnazir lo Yoda, since at the moment that he was Mekabel's Nazirus, it wasn't clear to the Noder, Iploniu lo, whether or not so and so is really Ruvain, Michala Lea Nazirus. How could the Nazirus be Chal? Vasanya, we learned in the Brisa, Rabbi Yehuda, Mishum Rabbi Tarfon, Ein Echad Mihemno. So Lefish lo Nitna Nazirus, El Lafla. Nazirus is only Chal when it's absolutely clear and known to the Noder at the time that he took his Nazirus that he will be a Nazir. And that we learn from the Pasuk, Isha ki Yafli, that it's got to be a flaw, and there's got to be a definite Nazirus. But if he was Makabel Nazirus on a condition, and he doesn't know where, at that point of his Kabbalah, when the condition will be fulfilled, the Nazirus is not Chal. And in the case of the Mishnah, nobody knew exactly for sure who is this person who's coming in their direction. And therefore, even if it turns out later that he was right, and he did get it, he got it right, and he did identify Reuven correctly, and the Mishnah says in that case, again, the Mishnah doesn't say explicitly by implication that the Nazirus is Chal, that cannot be Rabbi Tarfon, because the time that he took his Nazirus, we don't know whether he was correct or not. There was no clarity and definite nature in his Kabbalah's Nazirus. So the Gemara says, El Rabbi Yehuda dechrihu. This has to be the Shita Rabbi Yehuda of Kri. And where do we learn that? On what daf? Aleph. I don't know. He doesn't tell you. At least I'm not finding it right now. Anyway, so Rabbi Yehuda, in the case of Kri, Hareni Nazir al Menashe Hebe Kri Azeh Mea Kur. So we have a brisa that a man took upon himself Nazirus on the condition that in this pile of wheat or grain, there should be a volume of 100 kur, v'holach. And when he came to check out to see whether his condition was fulfilled or not, umitzo shenignav ova, the kri is gone, and there's no way of clarifying whether it did or did not have 100 kur. Here, the brisa records Machlok Srin Rabbi Shimon and Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Shimon Oser. Rabbi Shimon says that Nazirus is Chal even in a suffix, and Rabbi Yehuda's matter, he says no, a person is not accepting, he's not willing and eager and ready to accept upon himself Nazirus in such a case where he's putting himself into a suffix. And basically, in his mind, according to Rabbi Yehuda, when he accepted the Nazirus, he had in mind that if he'll never be able to clarify whether his condition is fulfilled or not, his Nazirus should not be Chal. Because he wanted to accept his Nazirus only if he'll clarify whether he's a Nazir and he's a Nazir Vadai. He doesn't want a situation of Nazir, Suffix Nazir Lahachmir, because Suffix Nazir Lahachmir is going to get him involved in a lot of complications. Oh, he tells you where it is. I finally found it on Daf Ches. And the Gemara says, Ein Adam, according to Rabbi Yehuda, Ein Adam machnes atzmo l'dovish sfeiko chomer mivadai. He'll have more chumras upon himself and complications in the case of a suffix than he would in a vadai. Because in the case of Nazirus misafek, he's going to have to be machmir, and he cannot bring his korbanos. He cannot be megalech himself at the end of his Nazirus. So he doesn't want that kind of Nazirus, which is so chamur. And therefore the whole Kabbalah is betela. It's completely invalid. So now let's get back to that Mishnah. He was Mekabel Nazirus on a Tanai, that the person coming to them is Reuven. Now we find out who is that person, and it turns out that he's correct, and the Nazir is Chal. But if that person now runs away and it's impossible to identify him, the Naziris would not be Chal, because according to Rabbi Yehuda, when he accepted his Naziris, he did not want to accept upon himself a Naziris of Suffolk. However, the objection of Rabbi Shimon is, Rabbi Shimon holds, Kavan to Ilo Nignav, had the Kree not been stolen or lost, still Mahavide Meyakur, perhaps it would turn out, again, Klapi Shmaya Galia, that it was Meyakur, Havi Nazir. And therefore, Ashtanami, Havi Nazir, even though now we cannot clarify it, but he's in Nazir Mitzad Suffolk. We don't know whether it had Meyakur and the condition was fulfilled or not. So the Naziris of the Noder is Chalmi Suffolk, because Suffolk Naziris Lahachne. And a person is willing to put himself into a Suffolk Naziris, despite the fact that it's so complicated. So the Gemara now explains the Shita of Rabbi Shimon in terms of our Mishnah Hachanami. Here too, if a person was Makabel Naziris, on the condition that the person who's coming against them is Ploni, is Ruvain, and now that person, Ruvain, flies the coop, is Reb Shimon is going to say that he's a Nazir Misafek. Even the Osel Kamavi Adina de Ploni Havi Nazir, Hashtanami Havi Nazir. Since if he would come and we could identify him, if he definite the fact that he is in fact Ruvain, the Nazir's Bichal. So now too, the Nazir's is Chal Misafek if that so and so flies the coop. And that leads us to the Mishnah here at the end of the fifth parak of Masechet Nazir. Now the Mishnah is going to introduce another scenario of Tanai ben Nazir, similar to the previous Mishnah, and there are a bunch of people who are debating about a certain thing, and each one was Makabel Naziris if the truth is with him. So again, 6 people are going in a group. Ra es koi. They saw an animal which is called koi. Koi is a suffix chaya, suffix behema, via omar. The first guy says that the koi is a chaya and not a behema. And if that's true, then I'm a Nazir. Shezeh chaya. The second guy says already Nazir shezeh eno chaya. It's an animal which is a behema, not a chaya. And then I'm accepting it. The third guy says that Hareini Nazir shezeh behema. So again, the third guy is repeating what the second guy says, but he said it the other way around. He didn't say Hareini Nazir shezeh eno chaya, but rather he said Hareini Nazir in a positive way, shezeh behema. Right. And the fourth guy switches it around and he says Hareini Nazir she'ein zeh behema. And the fifth guy says Hareini Nazir shezeh chaya v'behema. And the sixth guy says Hareini Nazir she'ein zeh lo chaya v'lo behema. Now, the Mishnah continues, and to make life even more complicated, in addition to these 6 fellows, there are another 3 guys. One of them says Hareini Nazir she'echad mikem Nazir. I'm accepting myself Naziris if only one of you is a Nazir, but the others are not right, and they're not Nazirim. And another guy comes along and says, Hareini Nazir she'ena echad mikem Nazir, none of you are Nazirim. And a third guy comes along and says, Hareini Nazir she'kulchem Nazirim, and all of you are Nazirim, misafek. It's Harei kulam Nazirim. The Mishnah says they're all Nazirim. So the Gemara immediately asks, Tana Chada. The Brisa says, Tisha Nazirim, V'tanya Idach Tesha Nazirios. It seems like there's a machlokas in the Brisos about how to interpret our Mishnah. One Brisa claims that our Mishnah is talking about a case of Tisha Nazirim. And that's the way we interpreted the Mishnah, that there were 9 Nazirim, each one of 9 people accepted Nazir's Misafek. V'tanya Idach And another brisa says, Tesha Nazirios, that one person is makabel on himself 9 Nazirios misafik. So the Gemara tries to explain this. Bishlei Matisha Nazirin, I understand how to interpret the Mishnah if there were 9 people online and they were trying to figure out the status of the Koi, and they each one were accepting upon themselves conditional Nazirus. Right? There were many people, let's say 9 people, and each one of them got up and made a Tanai in his Nazirus. And then you could justify that kulchem Nazir misafik, right? We don't know whether this is a behema or a chaya, or maybe it's both. But according to the second brisa, Tesha Nazirios l'chad gavrin, one person accepted upon himself 9 different Nazirios. Heichem ishkachasla. How is it possible that one person, mitzad safek, took upon himself 9 Nazirios, Nazirus times 9? I can explain based on a Mishnah that there are 6 Nazirios for one person. Kisnan, like it says in our Mishnah, and we could say our Mishnah is talking about one person who took on himself Nazirus 6 times over. He saw the Koi, and he said, already knows she's a Chayan. Then he took Nazirus and he said, She'ein Zechayan. Then he took Nazirus Shezebehema. Then he took Nazirus She'ein Zebehema. Then he took Nazirus upon himself if it's a Chaya and a Behema. Or he took himself Nazirus if lo Chaya v'lo Behema. So you can max out at 6 Kabbalas Nazirus. Each one is a suffix. Aval Tlas. But how are you going to add 3 extra Kabbalas Nazirus? Heichem ishkachasla. How could that be? There's no logical arithmetic possibility that he could take upon himself 6 Nazirios. He maxed out at, 9 Nazirios. He maxed out at 6. He can't say, Hareni Nazir, Shechem Mikem Nazir, Sheinechem Mikem Nazir, Shekulchem Nazirim. Why? Because there are no other people around. It's he himself. He's alone. So towards vis-a-vis me, vis-a-vis whom is he saying echad became or kulchem? Rav Sheshes, how is it possible that you can have 9 Nazirios in one person, according to the second brisa? Kigon di Omar, if a person declares after he saw 9 people that each one was taking his Nazirus on the Koi, he says, Hareni Nazir u Nazirus hakol alai. I want to accept upon myself the Nazirus of all these 9 people. And then 9 Nazirios are chal on him mitzad safek. Hadran Alecha, Perek Beit Shammai, and this is where we'll stop.
Okay, shkoya. Very nice.
So I'm sorry about the lateness of the hour. But
yeah, no problem.
Thank you for persevering. And now I'm going to see what's going on over here.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, then?
Okay, shkoya.